Now, you'll see through much of my training, I will use a lot of tools and techniques that were developed by Abraham Hicks. That's Esther Hicks channeling a group of entities that call themselves Abraham. The reason that I do that is that that was the very first teaching that really brought me to a full understanding of the universe and how it works and my place in it. Also, everything that Esther Hicks has said through, or that Abraham has said through Esther Hicks, has completely been spot on with my angelic work. I think that's one of the most important things. I haven't even really probably said it yet, but when you are working spiritually, you are going to get a sense of discernment of what is true for you and what is not true for you. And I want you to listen to everything I say, and I want you to filter it through your spiritual discernment to see if it works for you or it doesn't work for you. That doesn't mean to judge it. That simply means to say, I prefer this, but I don't prefer that. But you always want to be careful to make sure it's not because you're just triggered and you don't want to look at a dark place in yourself. So that can be kind of a tricky spot to be in when you see that something doesn't really resonate with you. Sometimes it's not that it doesn't resonate with you, it's that it resonates too much with you and it starts to tear things apart. So I'm going to be really going a little bit more in depth with the emotional guidance scale brought up by Abraham Hicks. I think it's one of the best that I've ever seen. And some people attach like actual frequency numbers to things, and you'll see people do that, and they'll talk about solfeggio frequencies and how those can kind of match. And a lot of times in meditation music, you will see different solfeggio frequencies that are meant to bring you to different levels. And what those are usually talking about are like brain frequency levels, which are a little bit different than emotional scale guidance levels. So those are kind of two different things. It's also really interesting to note, and I think this is just something, I love these little things where the kind of match but may not necessarily have anything to do with each other, and that is that there are 22 levels of emotional guidance through Abraham Hicks, and there's also 22 letters of the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, but they really don't have any correspondence. So yeah, I just think it's interesting. Just thought I'd throw that in there. So the main way that you can think of the levels on the emotional scale are really by sets. And really there's like three sets. There's like low, and then moderate, and then high. Because generally speaking, as you become conscious and you begin to move up the emotional scale, or even if you lay down and go to sleep, sometimes you will wake up in a different frequency mode automatically because you've had that rest, you've had that time to let things dissipate. Although Abraham Hicks says you will usually wake up in the same pattern. But sometimes the angels can do some work. You know, you might have really intended on feeling better the next day, and that's when Spirit would move in and begin to kind of clear things out for you and make you wake up in a different state. But what I'm saying is that it's not necessarily that you have to like walk up each of those 22 steps till you get up to the heights of joy and freedom and peace, because sometimes you might skip 2 or 3. So it's really helpful to look at the different stages, the different sets of like low and then moderate and then high, to really get more of an understanding of where they are. And what it also helps you to do is that a lot of the frequencies, say like in the low or in the moderate, you might still think of as you might still not prefer those, so you might judge those a little bit, but you have to keep in mind, if you are at a lower level than that is, if you can step up to that level, that you're going to feel better, you're going to have more access to your body, you're going to have more access to your mind, and you're going to have more access to spiritual connection. So it can actually be a plus to actually be at some of those lower frequency levels if it meant that you actually were able to climb up. And I know that, you know, all I can talk about is my personal experience, what I've been through, because I was at a point, I lived my life, most of my life, either completely cut off and unconscious. I was completely just, you know, dissolved away from the world and it was almost emotionless, you know, to keep myself safe, to keep myself hidden and keep myself small. Or when I actually started stepping into feelings, they were always depression and anxiety. It just was my normal state of being. That's where I was. So it's not even like it really felt all that bad, because it's all that I knew. For me, I thought that was all that was capable. And so as I started going up into those higher and higher, levels, even though they didn't sound great, they actually felt so much better and gave me more empowerment as I went on. And that's the real kicker, the real reason to really even be looking at this, because each level gives you a different amount of empowerment. It gives you a different level of autonomy, to where you have more choices, you have more resources, you have more things that you can do. There's more places you can go, more people that you can be, more people that are going to come towards you, just more things that are open to you, the more expansion that you can have, and the more that you can help the world, and the world can help you. It just opens everything up. It opens up your arms, and the arms of the world open up to you as you go up those emotional scales of levels. So I went through those kind of before, kind of fast, but we're going to take a look at them again, kind of grouped by their their level of low, and then moderate, and then high, to really get more of a feeling of them. And some of these can kind of go together. Sometimes it's hard to distinct between one to the next, but the main thing is, do you feel better? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel like you have more control? Do you feel like you have more choices? Do you feel more empowered? Because that, at the end of the day, is what is really, really important. Not your emotions are just indicators. That's all they are. So they're like a set point. They're how you've gone, from, they're an easy step for you to be able to tell, oh, okay, here I am. Here, they're like a mile marker, or like a way for you to know if you are on the path or the journey to a more empowered level of being. So at the very bottom, and you can take, and I'm putting over the scale over on top of this, so you can see you've got fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness, just rock bottom. You just feel like this. You feel just completely worthless, and like you have absolutely no. You are in survival mode completely. You're probably completely in fear mode. You're probably being triggered by absolutely everything. Your senses are different. As we said in the video before, you're probably getting a lot of cortisol. You're probably not sleeping well. You probably have gained weight. Your bones are probably getting softer. You're probably having a lot of joint problems. You're probably getting a lot of headaches. You might be getting tinnitus in your ears, and you might not be able to, you might have tunnel vision a lot and not really have great peripheral vision. Like, these are all very physical effects that you have, and you are totally in matter. You are completely in 3D at this time. You will notice that it'll feel like you're very alone. It'll feel like spirit isn't even there. And it's not that they aren't there, it's just that you haven't tuned your dial to where you can actually hear them. Think about, like with a TV or a radio, every single frequency is passing through that radio right now, but it's only picking up the station that it's tuned to. I mean, all the other ones are available, but it has to be tuned to that to be able to bring it in and understand it and have it as part of its experience. And exactly the same is for you. You are a radio frequency. You are a radio transmitter and a radio receiver at the same time. You are doing both things. You're both putting it out there and you're taking it back in. All happening all at the same time, or all together. So we got the fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness, very bottom, and then you get to the insecurity, guilt, and unworthiness, which, believe it or not, would feel a little bit better. It would actually feel like, okay, now I'm actually able to start taking a look at things, because when you start actually taking a look at things and asking the questions, about it, then you almost feel like you might have some possibility. Possibility can be a great thing. Jealousy would be the next thing, and usually in jealousy what you're doing is that you're at least taking the energy that you feel inside of yourself and you're starting to put it outside of yourself. So you're starting to blame something outside of you. Now, not that that's a good thing, but at least you've moved the blame away from you a little bit. You've put it away from yourself at a moment so that you can at least have a rest. Now you're going to get to a moment where you're going to take it back, because you're going to understand that you're at cause, that nothing outside of you is truly making you who you are, truly affecting your life. It's how you identify, it's how you interpret things. But at least with jealousy, you are giving yourself a half of a minute to put it out there so that you can kind of deal with things. The next one is hatred and rage. And what hatred and rage will do is it starts to build up and amp up your energy. It starts to actually give you the ability to be able to move. It starts to build up, because emotions, it comes from a Greek word mover, which means motion, to move. And so you're actually starting to move that emotion. Instead of it being like stuck in one place, you're actually starting to, decide to push it out. The next one is revenge. Now this is one where you are starting to want to take that jealousy, and you're starting to want to find a way to make people pay people back. It's where you're trying to say, okay, was this person out of here? And perhaps, very likely somebody outside did do something untoward to you. I absolutely understand that. I've had plenty of that in my life. Went through years and years of abuse as a child, and so on and so forth, and then just abused myself with thinking that was who I was, and that was my value, and that was my worth. So I completely there's no judgment in this, and as soon as you can let go of judgment in yourself, that's when you can start to let these things go free and go. Then the next thing is the anger, and that is where you are actually pushing it out there. You're actually releasing it. You're releasing it. And the problem with anger is that, and you'll see this with other people, when people direct anger or hatred at you, it's never about you. It's always about something about you that triggered something they don't like in them. It's what it did. So that's what's happening, is that your fear, your grief, your depression, despair, your powerlessness is now being released through this energy at something outside of you. Now hopefully it's something that can handle it. Maybe you're in counseling and your counselor is allowing you to get some anger out. Maybe you're in one of those special rooms with the dishes where you get to just break them against the wall or pound things with a sledgehammer. I know that they have those things. Or maybe there's some type of athletic thing where you're able to, pounce something out or drive something through where it's not actually hurting another person, but you're actually able to push that energy out. I know that when I first started going through my healing process, I would go to the gym and I would imagine the face of certain people right where my weights would come together, and I would crash them together, and I would just imagine just smashing them with those weights. So that was a way for me to get my anger out. That was giving me physical exercise, was growing my body, was growing my empowerment, and was also getting it out without actually hurting someone. So there are modalities that you can, but we do our very best as we can in the moment. As Maya Angelou says, once you know better, you do better. The next one is discouragement. So that is really this point of where you understand that, and it happens even for me when I go through an anger stage. There's both, you go through this moment where you're like, oh, who was I in that moment? How did I show up? And now I'm this crazy person, right? And so, and that works right into blame. It works right into that whole thing where now you're kind of, and this is where you're starting to turn it back on yourself. That's where you're starting to take this that you've put out with the jealousy, and you're starting to take it back upon yourself, and you're starting to understand that you are at cause. You're starting to work with that energy, and that's where it starts to kind of fold back on you. And this is a really important part. And then you go into worry and doubt. And this is where you really start, doubting your own ability to make choices, and you start worrying about the choices that you have made. It's a very normal state, but believe it or not, you're going to feel better at these points, because at least you understand that you do have some cause in your life, that there are some that you just feel like you did the wrong things, but at least you feel like you can do things, right? At least you're in that point right there. So I'm going to give kudos to that. Now that's the end of low frequency. Now we finally start getting into moderate frequency, and the first one is disappointment. And disappointment is really where we feel like either we've let ourselves down or other people have let us down. And one of the one of the quickest ways for disappointment is to have expectations of other people, and even expectations of really most anything. Expectations are these high level points and mile markers that we give people, places, things, even ourselves, of what has to be in order for us to be happy or fulfilled in that moment. And very rarely are those expectations ever met the way that we set them up. And it's because, we're these individual human beings, and we know what we mean by our expectations, but no one else does, even if we explained to them what our expectations were. So it's about living in a state of where you're calling things forth, but you're kind of being a little bit easy on the expectations of it, so that you don't move right back into the disappointment. After that, you're looking to have overwhelm, and overwhelm is just where you start, just your mind starts gearing back up again, and it starts going into thinking that you are not only, this is where you're really at the point where you understand that you're at cause, but you think you're at cause for too many things. The only thing that you're really at cause for is the identity that you had with certain things. That's what you are at cause for. You're not necessarily at cause for now you have to fix everything personally and everything is up to you. You are at cause for the emotional level you're at, the way you identify the things, the way you would interpret things. That is where you are at cause for, and that's really what your work is to do. The next one is you start to get ready to, your energy starts moving back up again, because you start getting into frustration, irritation, impatience, because you started to really understand your own level of empowerment that is possible for you, and you're ready to move forward, and you're just in a state of where you're just like, just itching to go. You're ready to stop feeling this way. And then you start moving into pessimism. And this is where you kind of fold back. It's this little game where you kind of fold it back into yourself, and then you fold it back out, back and forth, and you're not pushing it back out. You're not folding it back out as far as blame is concerned on something else, but you're just starting to doubt your own power. And then you start moving into boredom, and the reason you move into boredom is because those same brain patterns keep happening. You keep having those same recyclical thoughts over and over again, and it's because you are keeping yourself, or you are at a certain emotional level where only certain thoughts are available to you, because of the neurochemicals that are in your brain, because of the parts of your brain that are firing up, because of your connection with universal source is only at a certain level. And you start having probably the same thoughts over and over again. Humans have something like 50 or 60,000 thoughts every single day, but like 90% of those are the same thoughts over and over and over and over and over again. So of course you're bored, because you're ready to think differently. That is actually a really exciting stage to be at, because this is where you're going to start moving, because the next one is when you're moving from moderate to high, and that is in contentment. You start just getting okay with where you are, because you get almost to this point of where you start releasing, you start just letting go, you start just saying, okay, take the wheel. I can no longer handle this. I don't have the mental energy to just keep going over these same things over and over again. I don't have the mental energy to keep trying the same thing over and over again, getting exactly the same result. I'm worn out, so I might as well just be at an acceptance level where I can live the very best way I can in this moment with what is happening. And then you start seeing things getting a little bit better, and that moves you up into hopefulness. Now, hopefulness is it's one of those kind of border places. For me, hopefulness used to be the very highest I could ever reach, and now it's the very lowest that I ever get to. And I don't really like hope that much, because for me that's really low level, so I like to move up past that. The next one is optimism, and optimism is very much about motivation. Optimism takes a lot of energy. It's because you're pushing out there, you're pushing, which it's a great place to be. But optimism is you're kind of like creating, and you're pushing out this energy. You're you're stating things, and you're not necessarily believing them so much. You're almost like making the statement so powerful that you're pushing the faith forward, and that's an okay place to be. But you can't do that for very long because you're going to expend yourself. The next one is positive expectation and belief, because through the optimism you've started to convince yourself that positivity is true, that you are of value, that things are possible for you. And now you're in a place where you're starting to just expect and believe things. And now you're in this magical place. You're now actually in hopefulness. You've moved into high frequency. So you've been in high frequency for a while, and you're starting to get more of the intuition. More of those things are starting to come to you. And as you're in the belief, you start moving into enthusiasm, eagerness, and happiness, because what's happening is you're really releasing the idea that you are a human doing, and you're understanding that you're a human being. It's you're a spiritual entity having a human experience, which means it's just not all up to you. It means you can start just letting go, and you can just start being okay and content and happy and joyful in this moment, and it's all going to be amazing. And then you start getting really fun, because then you go into like passion. And this is where you get inspired. You start getting inspired, or in spirit. And spirit starts to give you these ideas that were not yours, ideas you've never had before, that sound so fun and sound so possible. And maybe just a little bit scary, but scary in a good way. Scary like taking a trip to a fun place, or scary like trying a new food that you've never tried before, or maybe going on a first date with somebody you've never met. Scary, fun scary. You know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. I've never done it before, but it's going to be I'm just really excited to even just try this. And then you get into those really super high frequencies of joy and wisdom and empowerment and freedom and love. And here you are at really almost, you're really at the bottom rung of the angelic realm, is where you are in these moments. And you can, of course, move up higher, with meditation practices and things of that nature. That is possible. But here is where you're actually understanding your true place in the world. You're understanding, who you are, your potential, and you're getting just so much inspiration and words of wisdom from guidance, from your spiritual guidance, and you are inspiring other people, and it's just this magical place. And you can't naturally stay there forever. But you can know it's there, but you can always have a sense of joy as you let go of expectations, and as you let go of identities, and as you let go of definitions of things. You understand it's so much easier to stay in those higher vibrational levels, because it's always those things, it's those expectations, those identities, those definitions that you create, and then they don't turn out the way you thought they were, or those I am statements that you might make that actually kind of drag you down. So as you do more of the I am of powerful things, I am joy, I am health, I am, and you just really step into these belief systems where you know that it is the power of your voice, it is the power of your intention, it is the power of your focus, it's the power of who you be that creates your next now moment. Then you can really make each space joyful in its own pattern, because you can understand that even the challenges, even the obstacles are now gifts. The obstacles and the challenges, really the darker the spot, or the uglier the thing that comes at you, or the more painful, or the more it brings that type of idea to you, the higher the challenge, the better the gift. And unluckily in my life, I have found that it is those cracks. It's those cracks in the foundation. It's those places that don't smell good and don't look good that the gold is really at. That's where it is, those hidden dark spaces. And as you keep finding them, keep delving, and get more belief and more faith that is where the gold is going to be, then you start really diving. You start getting excited about obstacles and challenges and triggers that happen in yourself. Like, oh, here is where the magic is. That's where the magic is. It's not over here in this safe space that I want to stay hidden. It's over here in this scary space place that is dark and hidden, and I'm going to shine the light on it. I'm going to see what happens down here and what I can explore through this cave and find out what is hidden down there. And what you find out, that is where your strength is. That is where your spot to break through and meet the divine is, and the divine attaches to that, and then it becomes your greatest moment, and it becomes your grace, to where you're actually able to be a powerful, divinely aligned individual who is now part of the all. And that is where the magic really truly happens. I know this has been of help, and we're going to keep going through some more teaching on it, and I'm just going to say love, peace, and release. Hey, while I've got you, have you ever wondered more about the angels, who they are, how they can help you in your life, and what you can do, and what your full potentiality is? How do you live in joy? How do you have peace? How do you have health and abundance and good relationships? And just how can you traverse the angelic realm and finally let go of the pain and suffering that you are going through right now in whatever is in your life? You ever wondered? I would love for you to join my free private Facebook group, Divine Angelic Manifestors. You'll see the link at the end of this video, or down below rather, but go to facebook.com/groups/Divine Angelic Manifestors. It's free, it's private. I would love to see you there. Love, peace, release.